My name is Jason. I've been married to Emily for over 10 years. We met when I was just a guy hustling at a small auto repair shop, scraping by but dreaming big about owning my own garage someday. Emily, on the other hand, had it all figured out: a steady job at an insurance firm, a knack for planning, and this sharp, organized energy that pulled me in from the start. She was smart, driven, always 2 steps ahead, and I admired that about her. We were opposites in a lot of ways, but we fit. At least, I thought we did. We built our life around trust, late-night talks about the future, and a shared belief that we were meant to go the distance. But life has a funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. Over the years, my work became more than just a job, it became my identity. Fixing cars wasn't just about turning wrenches, it was about problem-solving, creating something reliable from a mess of parts. Every time a customer drove away with their car running like new, it gave me this sense of pride that's hard to put into words. But being good at something comes with its own set of problems. As my reputation grew, so did the workload. I started taking on extra hours, weekends, late nights, whatever it took to get closer to that dream of owning my own shop. Emily supported me at first. She'd drop by the garage with lunch, stay up late to help with the books, little things like that. And those gestures, they meant everything. They reminded me why I was working so hard. But over time, things shifted. I was out the door before sunrise and back home long after dark. Weekends weren't for us anymore, they were just extra workdays. Emily stopped swinging by the shop, and our conversations grew shorter, less personal. At first, I didn't think much of it. I figured she understood that everything I was doing was for us, for our future. But looking back now, the signs were there. The laughter faded, the inside jokes disappeared, and dinner turned into quiet meals eaten side by side, but worlds apart. There's one night that's burned into my memory. I came home late, completely drained, to find Emily sitting at the kitchen table. The dinner she'd made had gone cold. She didn't say much, and neither did I. I just ate in silence and went straight to bed. It wasn't that I didn't care, I was just too tired to notice how distant we'd become. Lying awake that night, staring at the ceiling, I thought about the future I'd always imagined for us. Growing old together, laughing at dumb jokes, maybe arguing over where to retire. But the reality was already drifting far from that picture. Emily's life seemed to carry on without me. She picked up new hobbies, spent more time with friends, and even made weekend plans that didn't involve me. I told myself it was healthy, that she needed her own space, especially since I was always working. But deep down, it nagged at me. Every time I saw her smile at her phone or rush out the door to meet someone, a little voice in the back of my mind wondered if she was happier without me around. I never asked. It's not in my nature to pry. The house itself started feeling like a symbol of the gap between us. It wasn't a home anymore, it was just a place we both slept. We used to do projects together, painting rooms, picking out new curtains, arguing over what plants to get for the yard. No. I'd catch fleeting glimpses of her moving from room to room like we were just 2 strangers sharing a space. It wasn't anger that built up between us, it was something quieter, more insidious. A slow, creeping indifference. I kept telling myself it was temporary. That once I opened my own garage, things would fall back into place. But relationships don't work like that. You can't hit pause and expect to pick up where you left off. The truth was, I didn't know how to fix what was broken between us. I didn't even know when exactly it had started to fall apart. But life has a way of forcing you to see what you've been avoiding. And for me, that moment came in the form of a message. An accidental text that shattered everything I thought I knew. It was a Friday evening, one of those nights where exhaustion wraps around you like a heavy blanket. I'd just gotten home from the shop, grease still staining my hands despite scrubbing them raw. The house was quiet, the kind of silence that didn't feel peaceful, just empty. Emily wasn't home, but that had become the norm. She was probably out with her yoga friends or at some dinner she'd casually mentioned in passing. I reheated leftovers, ate alone at the kitchen table, and scrolled mindlessly through my phone, trying to distract myself from the nagging feeling that had been growing inside me for months. That's when it happened. My phone buzzed with a notification. A message from Emily. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe she was checking in, asking if I'd eaten, something simple. But when I unlocked my phone, The air seemed to thicken, and my heart started pounding for reasons I couldn't explain. It wasn't just a text. It was a video. Confused, I tapped on it, expecting something innocent, a funny clip, maybe a quick update. But as soon as the video started playing, everything around me faded. There she was. Emily. Not in a yoga class. Not having dinner with friends. She was with another man. No, not just one, there were several. The video was explicit, raw, and unapologetically graphic. Laughter echoed in the background, her face unmistakable, her voice undeniable. It was like a punch to the gut, knocking the air out of me. My hands felt numb, my grip tightening around the phone as if crushing it could somehow erase what I'd just seen. The video ended, and just like that, the message disappeared, auto-deleted. But the damage was done. The images were burned into my mind, etched into my memory with a cruelty I never thought possible. For a few moments, I just sat there, staring at the now blank screen. My heart wasn't racing with sadness. No, it was something darker, rage. A fury that surged through me, hot and suffocating. My hands clenched into fists, knuckles white, as if that anger needed a physical outlet. The sound of the front door opening snapped me out of it. Emily stumbled in, laughing, her voice slightly slurred. She dropped her purse carelessly by the door and headed straight for the bathroom, the sound of the shower turning on moments later. She was drunk, oblivious, completely unaware of the storm that had erupted inside me. I wanted to confront her right then and there, demand answers, scream until my voice gave out. But something stopped me. Rage is powerful, but it's also blinding. Acting in that moment would give her the chance to spin a story, twist the truth, maybe even make me doubt what I'd just seen. No. I needed to be smart. I sat back down at the kitchen table, trying to steady my breathing, my mind racing with 1,000 questions. Who were those men? How long had this been going on? And why would she send that to me? The realization hit me like another slap to the face. She hadn't meant to. It was a mistake. A slip of the finger. She probably meant to send it to him, to one of them. That sting was worse than the video itself. The shower turned off, and I could hear her humming softly, as if everything was perfectly normal. I forced myself to stay calm, to bury the rage deep enough that it wouldn't show on my face. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a towel, her hair damp and messy, she barely glanced at me. "Hey," she mumbled, her voice thick with exhaustion and booze. "Long day." I nodded, pretending to be distracted by my phone, my face a mask of indifference. Inside, I was anything but. She disappeared into the bedroom, leaving me alone with my thoughts, and a plan slowly taking shape. I wasn't going to explode. Not yet. I was going to find out everything. Who those men were. How long this had been happening. And most importantly, how to make them, and her, pay for what they'd done. Because this wasn't just betrayal. It was war. The morning after Emily's drunken return was unsettling in its normalcy. The sun crept through the blinds, casting soft stripes of light across the floor, as if the world hadn't shifted on its axis the night before. She was still asleep when I got up, sprawled across the bed like she didn't have a care in the world, no trace of guilt etched into her features. The irony was suffocating. I moved through my routine like nothing had changed, because outwardly, nothing had. But inside, I was boiling. My mind replayed that video in an endless loop, every second a dagger twisting deeper. Yet, I kept my face neutral, masking the storm raging beneath. When Emily finally woke, she shuffled into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes and yawning like she had nothing to hide. Her phone sat on the counter, the same phone that had carried that video straight to me. It was right there, vulnerable, exposed. But I couldn't just grab it. That would raise questions, and I needed answers without tipping my hand. "You should really keep your phone somewhere safe," I said casually, my tone light, almost joking. She waved me off, mumbling something about needing coffee, completely oblivious to the weight of her mistake. That phone was the key to everything. And she didn't even realize it. Later that day, my opportunity came. She was in the shower again, humming some pop song like we weren't living a lie. I picked up her phone, pretending to tidy up the kitchen, my heart pounding in my chest like a war drum. It wasn't locked. She'd never been one for complicated passwords, and I knew she hadn't changed it recently. I should have felt guilty for snooping. But I didn't. Not even a little. I scrolled through her messages first, texts with names I didn't recognize, casual texts with names I didn't more beneath the surface. Then, photos. Some innocent, some not so much. But it was one contact in particular that caught my eye. Saved under a generic name, Chris G. But the messages were anything but generic. Flirty texts. Late-night plans. Conversations filled with inside jokes I'd never heard before. And then there were the photos. Not the kind you'd send to a friend. My stomach churned, not with heartbreak, but with pure, unfiltered rage. She'd been living a double life right under my nose. While I was busting my ass at the shop, she was out there, doing this. I knew I needed more than just screenshots. I needed everything. So, I staged an accident. I waited until she was back in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone, oblivious. I walked by, pretending to be clumsy, and knocked it right out of her hand. It hit the tile with a sickening crack, the screen shattering instantly. "Damn, I'm so sorry," I said, feigning regret, reaching to pick it up. Her face twisted with annoyance. "Are you kidding me, Jason?" I put on my most apologetic face, hands up in mock surrender. "It was an accident. Look, I'll make it up to you. Let's go to the store, you can pick out a new one." My treat. She glared for a moment, but the idea of a shiny new phone softened her edge. "Fine," she snapped. "But you're paying for it." Oh, I was paying for it, all right. Just not in the way she thought. At the electronics store, she was like a kid in a candy shop, bouncing from display to display, comparing models, talking about camera specs and storage like any of it mattered. I played the supportive husband, nodding along, offering suggestions, pretending to care. But my mind was elsewhere. While she was distracted, I slipped her broken phone into my pocket. I'd brought a portable device specifically for this, a data transfer tool. I found a quiet corner under the guise of looking at accessories and started copying everything from her phone to mine. Messages, photos, call logs, her entire digital life, now at my fingertips. My heart raced with every passing second. If she caught me, it'd all be over. But she didn't. She was too busy flirting with the idea of a new phone, completely unaware of the trap she'd walked into. By the time the data transfer was complete, she'd picked out the latest model, something sleek and overpriced. I didn't argue. I handed over my card, smiled through gritted teeth, and watched her walk out of the store with a brand new phone in her hand, thinking she'd won. But she hadn't. Because I had everything I needed. And this was just the beginning. That evening, after Emily had gone to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with both her old phone and mine. The house was wrapped in silence, broken only by the faint hum of the fridge. The glow from the screen lit up the room as I scrolled through her messages, uncovering the life she thought she'd hidden so well. There it was, texts dripping with affection, inside jokes, suggestive photos. She'd built an entire relationship in the shadows while I was out there busting my ass to give us a future. But it wasn't just one guy. There were multiple names, each with their own string of conversations, each more damning than the last. It wasn't heartbreak I felt, it was disgust. Disgust for the lies, the betrayal, the audacity of it all. But I didn't let my emotions cloud my judgment. If I wanted to hit where it hurt, I needed to be strategic. One contact stood out, Chris G. The same name from earlier. His messages were more intimate, filled with promises, misuse, and details that made it clear this wasn't just some fling. This guy thought he had her. And that's when an idea hit me. I wasn't just going to sit here stewing in my anger. No, I was going to turn the tables. I crafted a message, pretending to be Emily. If you want to see more of my videos, you'll need to pay. Think of it as an investment in our fun. I hovered over the send button for a second, letting the weight of what I was about to do settle in. Then I pressed it. The reply came almost instantly. "What are you talking about? Why are you asking for money?" Bingo! The panic was already setting in. I smiled to myself, imagining him sitting there, confused and sweating, wondering what the hell was going on. I decided to push further. "Don't play dumb. You've seen what I can do. If you're serious about keeping this between us, send a small token of appreciation. Think of it as the price of admission." I waited, watching the screen, my heart pounding, not with fear, but with anticipation. Minutes later, a notification popped up. A payment. It wasn't much, but it was enough to show he'd taken the bait. But I wasn't done. I crafted another message, this time with a bit more bite. Buddy, you didn't seem to understand. I have all your videos and pictures of your junk, though honestly, it looks more like a screw than anything impressive. If you want them to remain a secret, send a more generous contribution. Silence. I could almost feel the tension on the other end, the gears turning in his head. I let him stew for a while, knowing that fear has a way of making people irrational. Then, another notification. A larger payment. This wasn't about the money. It never was. This was about control, about flipping the script. He thought he was sneaking around behind my back, and now he was dancing to my tune, afraid of what I might do next. I left it there for the night, satisfied with the groundwork I'd laid. The seed of fear was planted, and I knew it would grow. The next morning, Emily was in an unusually good mood. She sipped her coffee, scrolling through her brand-new phone, completely unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. When she left for work, I dove back into the messages, piecing together timelines, connecting dots. It all made sense now. The late nights, the vague excuses, the sudden interest in new friends from yoga and work. She wasn't just having an affair. She was living a double life. And I was about to burn it all down. The days that followed felt like walking through a house made of glass, fragile, ready to shatter at the slightest touch. Emily went about her routine as if nothing had changed, completely oblivious to the fact that I knew everything. But every forced smile, every casual "how was your day?" was just another crack in the glass, spreading wider with each passing moment. I kept the act going, playing the part of the tired, distracted husband. But inside, I was a man with a plan, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That moment came on a quiet Tuesday evening. Emily came home from work, her face glowing with that fake, practiced smile. She kicked off her heels, plopped down on the couch, and started scrolling through her phone, completely unaware that her past was about to catch up with her. I sat across from her, staring at the woman I thought I knew. My heart wasn't racing. There was no anxiety, no hesitation, just a cold, steady calm. I was done pretending. "Emily," I said, my voice flat, emotionless. She looked up, surprised by the seriousness in my tone. "Yeah. We need to talk." She sat up straighter, her smile fading. "What's wrong?" I didn't answer. Instead, I reached into my pocket and pulled out her old phone, the one she thought was broken and forgotten. I placed it on the coffee table between us, the shattered screen a perfect metaphor for what was left of our marriage. Her eyes darted from the phone to me, confusion morphing into something else, fear. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice a little too high, a little too shaky. I leaned back, crossing my arms. "I know, Emily." She blinked, her face trying to hold on to neutrality, but the cracks were already showing. "Know what?" I let out a dry laugh. "Don't play dumb. I know about everything. The late nights. The yoga classes. The videos." I emphasized that last word, letting it hang in the air like a guillotine. Her face drained of color. She opened her mouth, probably to lie, but I cut her off. "Don't," I snapped. "Don't insult me with another lie. I've seen it. All of it." She crumbled right there in front of me, her mask shattering. Tears welled up instantly, as if that would somehow soften the blow. But I wasn't interested in tears. Not anymore. "Jason, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for..." I slammed my fist on the table, making her jump. "You didn't mean to? What? Did you accidentally fall into someone else's bed?" "Multiple times." She sobbed, covering her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. "It was a mistake. I was lonely, and you were never home, and... Oh, so this is my fault now." I laughed bitterly. "I was working my ass off to build a life for us while you were out playing house with God knows how many guys." Her sobs grew louder, but I didn't care. I'd spent too many nights alone, wondering where she was, too many mornings waking up next to a stranger wearing my wife's face. This wasn't about closure. This was about reclaiming the power she'd stolen from me. "I want you out," I said coldly. She froze, her tear-streaked face looking up at me like she hadn't heard me right. "What? You heard me. Pack your things and get out. I'll have my lawyer send you the divorce papers. Jason, please, we can fix this." "I'll do anything." "There's nothing to fix. It's broken. You broke it." She tried to reach for me, but I stood up, stepping back like her touch was poison. "Don't," I warned. For a moment, she just sat there, sobbing quietly, realizing that her crocodile tears wouldn't save her this time. Then, slowly, she got up and went to the bedroom to start packing. I didn't follow her. I didn't offer to help. I just stood there, staring at the front door, waiting for her to walk through it one last time. When she finally did, suitcase in hand, she paused, her eyes red and swollen. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered. I didn't respond. I just closed the door behind her. And locked it. The door clicked shut behind Emily, the finality of that sound echoing through the empty house. It was over. 10 years of marriage reduced to a suitcase and a hollow goodbye. But instead of feeling relief or sadness, all I felt was nothing. A cold, numb void where love used to live. The house was eerily quiet now. No footsteps down the hall, no faint hum of her off-key singing while she got ready for bed. Just silence, and for the first time, it felt like peace. But the real battle was just beginning. I filed for divorce the next morning. No hesitation, no second thoughts. The paperwork was clinical, sterile, so unlike the mess of emotions behind it. Emily didn't fight it at first. Maybe she thought I'd cool off, change my mind, or miss her enough to reconsider. She was wrong. When the lawyers got involved, things turned ugly fast. Suddenly, she wasn't the tearful, remorseful wife anymore. She was strategic, calculating, fighting for assets, for the house, for money she didn't earn. She even tried to play the victim, painting herself as the neglected spouse whose husband cared more about his work than his marriage. But I had something stronger than her lies. Proof. I handed over every message, every photo, every damning piece of evidence I'd pulled from her phone. The lawyers didn't even have to dig. It was all laid out like a roadmap of her betrayal. The look on her face in that first mediation meeting when she realized I had everything, priceless. It should have been enough to break her. But Emily wasn't done. She tried to turn the tables, claiming I'd manipulated her lover, referring to the money I'd coerced out of that coward with a few well-placed threats. She painted me as the aggressor, the villain. But her story fell apart under the weight of her own actions. The judge wasn't buying it. Not with the evidence stacked against her like a tower of glass, fragile and transparent. In the end, the court sided with me. I kept the house, the one I'd worked for, the one I'd poured my sweat into. She walked away with less than she'd hoped for, both in assets and dignity. But the story didn't end there. A few weeks after the divorce was finalized, I got a call from an unknown number. Curiosity got the better of me, and I answered. It was him. Chris. His voice was shaky, a pathetic mix of anger and fear. "You think you're smart, don't you?" he spat. "You think you can mess with people's lives and get away with it?" I almost laughed. Mess with people's lives? The irony was so thick you could choke on it. "I didn't mess with anything," I said calmly. "You did that all on your own. I just cleaned up the mess." He ranted for a bit, threatening me with vague nonsense, legal action, connections, the usual tough guy act. I let him finish, then hit him with the truth. "I've got everything, Chris. The texts, the photos, the payments. You really want to play this game?" Silence. Then a click. Coward. But apparently, he wasn't done either. A week later, I noticed a couple of guys hanging around outside my shop. They weren't customers. They didn't belong. Their posture, their glances, they reeked of trouble. I knew exactly who sent them. I didn't wait for them to make the first move. I walked right up, grease-stained hands still wiping down a wrench, and looked the bigger one dead in the eye. "You lost." He smirked, trying to look tough. "Just checking out the place." "Great. You've seen it. Now leave." The smirk faded. Words weren't going to cut it. They lunged first. Bad idea. I wasn't a fighter, not by profession. But years of working on cars had built more than just a business. I had strength, grit, and a decade's worth of rage tucked neatly behind my knuckles. The fight was short, messy, and exactly what I needed. They limped away, and I didn't even bother calling the cops. I had something better: security footage. I handed it over to the police the next day, and within a week, Chris's goons were behind bars. Turns out they had records, and this little stunt wasn't their smartest move. But even that wasn't the end. Emily showed up at my shop not long after. She looked different. Not just physically, though the stress had clearly worn her down. No, it was in her eyes. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something hollow. Regret, maybe. Or the realization that the life she'd gambled everything for didn't exist anymore. She stood in the doorway, unsure, out of place. "I just wanted to talk," she started. I didn't even let her finish. "There's nothing left to say." "But—" I turned my back and went back to work, the sound of her voice fading with every step I took toward the life I'd rebuilt. Because that's what I'd done. Rebuilt. The shop grew, word spread, business boomed. I hired new staff, expanded, even started mentoring young mechanics who reminded me of myself back when I thought love was enough to hold a life together. And me. I was free. Not just from her, but from the weight of pretending, the burden of being blind to what was right in front of me. Emily became a ghost, just a name I used to know. Chris. Probably still nursing bruises, both physical and emotional. But me. I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And that was the best revenge of all. Thank you for visited my YouTube channel. Your support, likes, and comments truly inspire me to create even more engaging content. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. You're a part of this amazing community, and I'm thrilled to share my stories with you. See you in the next video on YouTube.